right, Minnesota, a really interesting team. Last year they went 7-10 with, I think, four different starting quarterbacks. They had Kirk Cousins until he went down with the Achilles. Josh Dobbs started a couple games. Nick Mullins. I'm probably forgetting somebody else. They only get 10 or 11 games out of Justin Jefferson, and they end up going 7-10. They draft J.J. McCarthy, who unfortunately is going to be missing the entire season with the meniscus injury. And now they have Sam Darnold as the firmly entrenched number one quarterback. And we've seen that experiment play out before. So their projected win total for the Vikings is 7.5. Which way are you leaning for Minnesota?
I'm going under here. You're not. I don't think you're going to win more than 7 games with Sam Darnold as your starting quarterback. Yes, you still have Justin Jefferson. He's pretty much what they call quarterback proof. But Aaron Jones, he's going to get hurt at some point. He may not be the same guy he once was. You have some young rookie running backs, defense. You got one or two guys there, but not much talent on that side of the ball either. So I think, 7 wins is probably right where they're at again. Even if they don't go through 4 different quarterbacks, pretty much the guys they started last year after Cousins' injury were just slightly below where Sam Darnold is as a quarterback. So for those reasons, Khalid, I'm taking the under again. And also you got the Lions and Packers on the up here, and they're going to be tough teams for them to face. Even the Bears are going to be probably better than them. So Bears. So I mean, you're looking at like potentially 0-6 in the division right there. So it's going to be tough for Minnesota, I think.
Yeah, I'm going with the under as well. You know what this reminds me of? I mean, it's not the same situation, but the year that the Niners lost Jimmy Garoppolo in, I think, week 1 or week 2, and they had, pretty talented team around him, but they end up going like 3-13 because their quarterbacks were awful, and they end up getting Nick Bosa. And I think this team might look at the J.J. McCarthy injury as a blessing in disguise, because you're thinking, man, this division is crazy anyway. Got Detroit on the come up, Green Bay on the come up, Chicago on the come up. So you're like, okay, maybe we can tank a little bit here, go 3-13, 4-12, whatever it is, and end up getting a blue chip defensive player, which I think they are currently lacking. So yeah, I think it's a hard under. I'm not sure why it's 7.5. I don't know what the belief is. I know Justin Jefferson's great, but obviously he's quarterback dependent. And Sam Darnold he's fine. I don't think he's as bad, maybe as advertised, but he does turn the ball over a lot. I don't think we saw anything from him in San Francisco. And I think he made a couple relief appearances last year. And that's. So hard under on Minnesota. All right. Next, the New York Giants. They lost Daniel Jones pretty early on in the season. They lose Saquon Barkley. This was a team with a lot of drama around it last year. I was kind of surprised that Brian Daboll kept his job. They end up adding Malik Nabers, who some say is the best receiver in this class, even better than Marvin Harrison Jr., but they still have Daniel Jones as their quarterback. And their projected win total is 6.5. Which way are you leaning for the Giants?
Definitely under. And for the reason you mentioned, Daniel Jones, like, yikes. He's looked bad. He's looked really bad. I'm not sure what the thought process was for the Giants going into the draft, where they potentially could have, moved on up or taken JJ McCarthy, and gotten someone who's potentially better than Daniel Jones. I guess they paid the guy big money, and so they're like, let's ride him out another year. Let's see. But I definitely think you'll see the Giants here with the top 3 pick, and they're going to be in the running for a quarterback next year. Like, Daniel Jones isn't the answer. Nabers, sure, he's decent, but defense is not great. And you're in a tough division here with the Cowboys, Eagles, even potentially the Redskins getting better. Or sorry, Commanders. My bad. Commanders.
Yeah, there you go. I might have to blur that out. I might have to bleep that out.
Yeah, bleep that out. My bad. It's super offensive.
No, it's
my
all
bad.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those reasons, I mean, the Giants are definitely well under that 6.5. Like, I would see them as a 3-4 win team for sure.
Completely agree. I love Malik Nabers, but aside from him, you look at that team in general. Difference maker is probably Kayvon Thibodeau, who's a good pass rusher, but that's about it. I don't see any other stars on this team. I don't see much talent in general. They're starting Devin Singletary at running back. I know people say running backs don't matter, but at some point it has to matter if you don't have other talent around him. I think Daniel Jones is a train wreck. I think he's going to be a career backup after um, this contract plays out, which he got a ton of money for basically one good season in his career. I think at some point, maybe like week 7, week 8, we're going to see Drew Lock, and we might even see Tommy DeVito at some point, who people loved last year because he's a true New Jerseyan. So yeah, hard under on the Giants again. 3 to 4 wins, I think, is the max again in a tough division. Speaking of a tough division, the Washington Commanders. Last year they were only 4-13. They were a frisky 4-13, similar to the Arizona Cardinals. Sam Howell showed some fight, but this defense was awful, and they just turned the ball over a lot. They went out and got one of the more exciting quarterbacks in the class in Jaden Daniels, and their projected win total is now 6.5. Which way are you leaning on the commies?
Still gonna go under here, just because they have a lot of issues there on the defensive side of the ball. I know Jaden Daniels, he's exciting quarterback. I think he's good enough to maybe get him about 2 more wins here. But again, rookie quarterback, he's gonna struggle a little bit from time to time. Offense is okay, it's fine. They got Terry McLaurin. Uh, I don't even know who their second wide receiver is now because they traded Dotson. Uh, Eckler had running back, Brian Robinson. So decent offense, but I think the defensive side of the ball is going to be the biggest problem, right? And they're going to have to really they're going to go down big in some of these games, right? That they're playing. So I don't think they're talented enough to climb back from some of those deficits they'll face early on. So I think maybe if they have a really decent season, it's 6 wins here for them.
I'm going under as well, but I do think their defense is going to be good. Not great. I think it's going to be good. They went out and got Jeremy Chin from the Panthers. They got Frankie Louvu, who was an underrated middle linebacker. I know Carolina, who's the next team we're going to talk about, only won 4 games last year, but that was all on their offense. I think their defense was pretty good. They had a really good pass defense, and I think those 2 guys had a lot to do with it. They do have 2 blue chip defensive tackles. Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen are both, I think, upper tier, maybe not quite elite defensive tackles, but I think the defense is going to be better because of the guys that they added. Again, with the rookie quarterback, he does have also that the Caleb Williams tendency to try to do too much. And he is kind of slight. He has more of that Lamar Jackson build than a Josh Allen build. So I think he's going to take a couple pops, and he's known for doing that, just taking some hits that he shouldn't be taking. So I'm going to go under, but I think they're going to be a fun and exciting team. Not quite as depressing as last year, even though last year they were kind of feisty. I like Sam Howell, and I know he's in Seattle. I was pushing for the Raiders to trade for him. I think they got him for like a 4th round pick. So I was like, go take a flyer on this guy. He was a great fit. I see you laughing at me because I don't want to bring up fantasy, but he was an elite fantasy quarterback, and at some point those stats have to matter. So I do think the defense is going to be improved, but not good enough to, again, in a tough division where, Dallas and Philly are going to be near the top of the NFC. And I mean, they're going to probably sweep the Giants, but you never know with these weird NFC East games. So we both agree on the under here. Last and potentially least, the Carolina Panthers. They go 2-15, which is atrocious. They should have had the first overall pick, but they had traded it already to get the guy pictured here in Bryce Young, who just looked completely overwhelmed last year. He had no weapons, which probably was part of it. Frank Reich was just not the coach. He was just not the right guy for him. They go out and get Canales from Tampa Bay, who ran a pretty good offense, which is another reason I think Tampa Bay is going to struggle because they did lose their offense coordinator. So you're expecting probably a small improvement, and I think the line agrees here. But their projected win total is 5.5. So which way are you leaning on Carolina?
Yeah, I'm gonna go under. I think they'll have slight improvement. There maybe be about a 5-win team. Again, right? It just really depends on how big of a step Bryce Young takes, but I think he'll take a slight step towards much better than what he did rookie season wise. Is he going to be put out like a all pro type of season? No, but you'll get it. He'll probably give you average quarterback play this year, and then you got to see what he's going to do the years after that. But I think really the concern is how many guys they lost on the defensive side of the ball. Like they traded Brian Burns away, right? They lost Jeremy Chin, like you mentioned. So they lost some guys there that were some key parts of their defense, and I think you'll see offensive improvements from them. Maybe roughly the same. Like they'll probably regress a little on defense because they had really good defense last year. I would say. So I think that still doesn't get you that still doesn't get them anywhere. They're still around a 5-win team. I think is where I'm at with them.
I'm with you. I'm taking the under as well. Barely. The under. I think they're going to be closer to 4 or 5 wins, which I think is decent. Like you said, we will see some improvement from Bryce Young. He does have some more weapons around him. They just had one of the worst position groups or skill position guys in the NFL last year. The best receiver was Adam Thielen, who's 100 years old and is really slow at this point. So they get Xavier Legette. They have a little bit more pop, I think, on offense. They have a better offensive coordinator who was able to resurrect Baker Mayfield's career in Tampa Bay. But like we said, or like you said, they did lose some big pieces on defense. I think Frankie Louvu was a really good middle linebacker who was underrated, and he took his talents, just a few hours up north to Washington. Jeremy Chin is not an amazing player, but I think he's versatile and brings some pop to that defense. They did sign Jadeveon Clowney, but I mean, he was good last year in Baltimore, but maybe that's just because he was in Baltimore. So I'm not seeing many blue chippers, and like you said, they did get trade Brian Burns. So I'm not seeing more than 5 wins on this team. I think closer to 4. So that's it for our over-unders. Pick a Super Bowl winner. Do we see the Niners back in the Super Bowl?
You want me to pick an NFC winner, not a Super Bowl winner? You want me to pick
NFC winner.
Man, I want to say Niners, but it just feels weird for them right now this season. It just feels off. So I'm gonna go Detroit. I'm gonna take the Lions to win the NFC.
I like it.
This is me saying it as a Niners fan. Like it's just something feels wrong with the Niners this year. Like I'm not feeling the vibe right now with the Niners, and this is me as a Niner fan. So
okay, I like it. I think I'll go with that too. I like Detroit. I think they're going to be exciting. I think they added a lot of pieces, and I think everyone's rooting for them as a good underdog story. Not an underdog story because they were in the NFC Championship, but just in general as a franchise. But I think in terms of division winners, I think we're almost all aligned except for the NFC South. I think we both went the Niners. We both went the Lions to win the division. I think the Eagles as well. And then the NFC South looked like you picked Atlanta and I picked New Orleans. So 3 out of 4 agreement. Does that sound about right?
No, that sounds about right to me, Colin.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Saman. Appreciate you, man. Thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure to hit that subscribe, follow button wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. We are on all the major social media platforms at 4040 Vision Pod.